Hello and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club, episode 101, Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Welcome back. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'm joined as always by the lucky to my patches, my lovely co-host, Emily.
Canine Crunchies can't be beat, and this episode is going to be a special treat.
Well, I guess this episode's already gone to the dogs, and that's because there is only one book that is appropriate for our 101st episode. Perhaps you can spot it from a mile away. It is, of course, 101 Dalmatians. This book has been on our radar since we started the podcast back in 2018. We just had to wait a while to get to it, but we are positively excited the day has finally arrived. Emily, can you give us some background on our author, Dodie Smith, and the book?
Yes, I can. Thanks for all those wonderful puns to bring us into this episode. I'm so excited. Immediately when we started this, I was like, I know exactly what book I want to read 101 books from now. So let's talk about Dodie Smith. Dorothy Dodie Gladys Smith was born in 1896 in Lancashire, England. She began her career as a playwright at age 10 when she wrote her first play to entertain her family. In 1914, she enrolled in the Royal Academy for Dramatic Art and performed in school plays while perfecting her writing. Dodie continued on the stage after school, but her acting career was not significantly noteworthy. Instead, she excelled in writing. Despite selling a movie script, Schoolgirl Rebels, and a one-act play, British Talent, in the 1920s, it was not until her 1931 play, Autumn Crocus, written under the pseudonym C.L. Anthony, that she would be praised for her writing, and especially after her real identity as a woman was discovered. Of her 11 plays, her most successful were Call It a Day in 1935 and Dear Octopus in 1938. It was during the run of Dear Octopus that she met her husband, Alec Macbeth Beasley, who was at the time serving as her business manager. In the 1940s, they would move to the United States to avoid war and conflicts in Britain over Beasley being a conscientious objector. And it was during her time in the United States that she starts to write novels. Now, 101 Dalmatians is Dodie's second novel. Please note it is the 101 using full words, not numerals. It was originally titled The Great Dog Robbery and was published as a serial in Women's Day magazine in 1956. It would then go on to be published as a complete book by Heinemann, an imprint of William Heinemann Limited, a London-based publisher. Dodie and her husband Alec kept Dalmatians as pets and at one point had 9 of them. So not quite 15, not quite 101, but still that's a lot of dogs. One of her dogs was Pongo, who would inspire our protagonist. And the concept of Cruella and the plot of the book came from one of their friends who, upon visiting, had observed that those dogs would make a lovely fur coat, end quote. The book was an immediate success in children's literature, both in the United States and the UK. Disney screenwriter Charles Brackett loved the book and set out to acquire the rights to turn it into an animated film. Disney had the rights for $25,000 in November of 1957, almost exactly 1 year after the book's initial publication. So Disney had this on their radar immediately and set out to get it. Dodie was very excited to work for Disney. We're going to discuss the film's background next, but it should be noted that Dodie was also very pleased with the adaptation. She was happy to work with Disney, and she said that she loved what they did to her book. And this is very different than what we're used to hearing from Disney's partnership with another British author, P.L. Travers, on Mary Poppins in the 19th. That will come only a couple years later in the 1960s. So a very different experience. The success of both the novel and the film would lead to Dodie's sequel, The Twilight Barking, to be published in 1967. And while also a literary success, no film adaptations from Disney, including the 2 sequels of 101 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure, and 102 Dalmatians, the live action. Neither are based on the second novel. Interestingly, I found this really, we're going off script a little bit here with 101 Dalmatians, but I thought this was interesting tie-in to some other Disney things that we've read. 101 Dalmatians was not her last experience with the Walt Disney Studios. Her first novel, I Capture the Castle, was a coming-of-age story of a young girl living in genteel poverty in a crumbling castle in England in the 1930s. Very allegorical to the Great Depression and leading into World War II. The novel was published in 1948, not long after the end of the Second World War, and was a success, again, both in the United States and England. Walt Disney acquired the rights to the novel in 1963, not long after releasing 101 Dalmatians. The plan was to have Disney's Golden Girl of the 1960s, Hayley Mills, portray the main character, Cassandra. However, the project was eventually scrapped. I guess we couldn't fit another film on Hayley's radar. She had so many. But Disney held on to those books' rights until the 1990s before releasing them to Heidi Thomas, who wrote a screen adaptation, which then resulted in a 2003 feature film directed by Tim Faywell for a BBC film starring Ramona Gary. So we almost had another Dodie film.
Wow. Fun find.
Yep. So in all, Dodie authored 9 novels, 4 autobiographies, 11 plays, and 2 screenplays before her death in 1990. The 101 Dalmatians remains her most recognized work and still continues to pop up on like lists of best British children's literature or most influential literature today. So still a pretty popular book.
Nice. Well, let's get into the film that was inspired by the book. So to start, here, of course, is an excerpt from our favorite Disney reference resource, Disney A to Z, about the animated film. Quote, released on January 25th, 1961, directed by Wolfgang Reitherman, Hamilton Luske, Clyde Geronimi, based on the book by Dodie Smith. The songs Cruella de Vil, Dalmatian Plantation, and Canine Crunchies commercial were written by Mel Levin. Costing $4 million, the film did phenomenal business on its original release and in its subsequent reissues in 1969, 1979, 1985, and 1991. Released on video in 1992, it was the first feature to solely use the Xerox process for transferring the animator's drawings to cells. Prior to this, each one of the animator's drawings had to be hand-traced in ink onto a cell. The new process sped up production greatly, especially in a film that had so many dogs, and not just dogs, but spotted dogs. It would have been horribly time-consuming to hand ink each of the cells. Voice actors include Rod Taylor, Pongo, Betty Lou Gerson, Cruella de Vil, Lisa Davis, Anita, Ben Wright, Roger, and Kate Bauer, Perdita. 79 Minutes, the famous Twilight bark used to rescue the puppies, was later adopted as the name for the newsletter for Disney feature animation. End quote. I do want to add a little more context to the film before our discussion. Thank you to the Walt Disney Family Museum's blog for this info. Following the financial demise of Sleeping Beauty, the next animated feature had to be a success. Otherwise, the studio would continue to have had to cut staff and budgets to its founding department. Dodie Smith's book was spot on, and for an adaptation that could help Disney Animation bounce back out of the red and into the black and white. In the Saturday Evening Post interview with Peter Martin of Walt, quoted saying, Sleeping Beauty was not the kind of picture to have the appeal that 101 Dalmatians had, because in 101 Dalmatians, I had those cute personalities to hold on to. You know, it had more of a broad appeal. Sleeping Beauty was more of a spectacular fantasy. The studio made the right move, and the film grossed over $14 million in the box office. 101 Dalmatians stands out as a landmark Disney animated film in several ways. First, it was the first animated film to be placed in a contemporary setting. Animator and Disney legend Andres Deya noted, a Disney film set in our time was something brand new. And there's a realism to the contemporary story brings, including a complete lack of magic. Nobody has any special powers. Cruella is just bad. The animation style of the 101 and Xerox process would also influence the animation techniques for the next 3 decades. The Xerox process's last film was The Little Mermaid, when the new CAPS system would replace it for The Rescuers Down Under in 1990. Despite 101 Dalmatians and the animator's praise for Xerox process, Walt was not a fan of this new animation style. Ken Anderson recalled, I realized that Walt didn't like anything to show lines. In fact, he was trying to eliminate the lines from the very beginning. He didn't want them to show ever. Didn't want people to know that an animator had drawn them. Snow White would be a girl. The boy would be just a boy. They wouldn't have any lines at all if possible. Walt liked the story and the audience's response to the film, but he could not fully get behind the aesthetic brought on by the Xerox process. Regardless, 101 Dalmatians was a success and made animation profitable for the studio again in the 1960s. The film was a continued success through its re-releases. From 1961 to 1995, 101 Dalmatians grossed over $303 million at the box office. Disney would make other adaptations of 101 Dalmatians, including the 1996 live-action film starring Glenn Close, Jeff Daniels, and Jolie Richardson. Disney would also make a sequel to the live-action 102 Dalmatians in 2000 and an animated sequel, 101 Dalmatians 2 Patch's London Adventure in 2003. We'll primarily be focusing on the animated feature today, but we'll touch on the live-action as well. So let's kick things off. What are your memories of 101 Dalmatians, Emily?
Listening back, I did listen to Disorders episodes. I'm going to tilt my hand a little bit for my recommendations for after. And I had a lot of the similar memories as Hunter did. Being children in the 90s, I think we got inundated with all the marketing for the 1996 live action. However, with that, I think came with watching a lot of the animated feature because there were the McDonald's toys. There was a lot of plush. I remember seeing them in the Disney store. So even though the 1996 live action film, I think, was what was most shown in my childhood, like when it came to like what Disney was advertising, I do remember watching the film quite a bit as a kid. Not maybe as much as like Beauty and the Beast, but it had a regular lineup that, maybe you reach for it every other month or so. Like it got to watch at least 2 or 3 times a year. But the thing I remember the most was I loved this PC computer game called 101 Dalmatians, Disney's animated storybook. And it was essentially, you read through the entire story of 101 Dalmatians, and it had like mini games throughout, and it had reading literacy. I actually found a full playthrough on YouTube. That was quite a trip down memory lane, but now through like a teacher lens, it had things where you could like change out words and it would give you synonyms and definitions and like little mini like vignettes of other things happening in scenes and like definitions of what a Dalmatian is. So like it had learning and education in there too. But I played that game so many times. I loved the memory game. There was like a point in Hell Hall where you had to like search for the puppies with a flashlight. So it was a black screen and your mouse was the flashlight. So you had to like scan through the screen. And I have very vivid memories of playing that. So between that and the animated film, and I do remember pretty regularly watching the live action, this was one that was, again, not as high up as some of the other Renaissance films, but was one that we did regularly have in my house. What about you?
The computer game looked familiar to me. You did put a link in our little shared repository here, and I think there might have been one that I didn't own, but my dad would often take me to the library and let me borrow computer games when I was at his house on the weekend. It's like, I would just play it through on the weekend and return it. So there was definitely computer games I owned, but I think this might have been a library borrow for me. So shout out to the library for letting me borrow all those fun computer games. We should do like a computer game storybook topic sometime because I do remember that being kind of a conceit for many of the Disney computer games of the 90s.
I think I had a Hunchback of Notre Dame one also.
I had a Hercules and a Little Mermaid one for sure. So put a pin
this could be
in that.
Intriguing.
Yeah, I think there's something to explore there. In terms of the film, definitely one that I owned on VHS, would watch occasionally. I believe I saw the Glenn Close live action in cinemas. That feels like a correct memory for me. I do remember 102 Dalmatians coming out and going
Yeah, I
to
remember
see
that one too.
for sure. We were a little older then. The McDonald's toys for sure. I do have to ask, knowing that you have like a McDonald's toy dealer in your family who's rather high up on the McDonald's chain ladder, did you get all 101 toys?
I don't think we got all 101.
That's a lot of toys.
When I've seen pictures, like I looked up what they looked like to try to remember them, I do remember having them and playing with them. We have a whole tub. Next time you come to visit me in my parents' realm, if we ever go back to Philadelphia for a museum visit or something, the tub of McDonald's toys is in the basement. It's just like a tub full of them that we used to play with.
Core memories unlocked. I do remember those toys. That was a big deal. I feel like Disney definitely went on to do 100 toys for the 100 Years of Magic. We got 50 for Disneyland's 50th, as well as Walt Disney World's But I don't think the 100 has been topped other than that 100 Years of Magic in 2001. So
And that's
huge
gotta be
deal.
hard. Like 100
The
different Disney
production.
characters is a little easier than 100 different Dalmatians. Like it's the
Yes.
same dog
Because they
doing
were just
different
Xeroxing them
things.
on the movie. Like they didn't even feel like drawing them all. Yeah, they were like one was in a Christmas present. I remember things like that. My other core memory associated with this film is actually a Disney sing-along song, and this was a live action one. Do you remember?
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh. How did I
the
forget that?
Pongo
Yes.
and Perdita. I looked it up today, and I was like, oh, yeah, this was a vague recollection. Went down a YouTube rabbit hole. It was live action. There was like a lady who had very fashionable Dalmatian outfits, but not like Cruella Dalmatian fur.
Mhm.
Like she had picture like a 1950s prom dress, like strapless and all the tulle, but with Dalmatian spots on it. She was fabulous. A lot of the songs, though, it was a weird one because they weren't Disney songs. I mean, maybe We're Following the Leader was in there, but it was like Take Me Out to the Ball Game and How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? But they had live Dalmatians. I'm thinking this had to have been around the time of the live action. Like we're just gonna reuse these Dalmatians. And I wasn't able to verify this, but it definitely looked like it was filmed at the then Disney MGM Studios backlot and like the residential street houses. But that was a good one. So I saw your face light up as I
Yes.
shared that.
That, oh my gosh, how did I forget about that? You said you did find it on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay, so I'm going to throw that in the show notes. We'll put in the YouTube link to the game that I played and a YouTube
Yeah,
link to this sing-along song. Yes, I do remember that. That
that was a
we
fun
did
one.
listen to quite a bit. Maybe because we
Yeah.
liked the dogs.
Well, and I feel like the sing-along songs were so accessible. We talked about this on
Mhm.
Notably Disney with Brett. He invited us for a sing-along
They were
song
the bedtime
episode.
movies for
Yes, they
me.
were 30 minutes, really accessible. Like, maybe sit down, eat your mac and cheese, and
I want to
have your lunch
manifest
before
again, hoping that Disney someday will put all of these
on Disney Plus.
on Disney Plus.
Yes. I wonder if it's hard with licensing for like the songs that are
That's
not Disney
true.
songs, makes it
But the
a
other
little more
sing-along songs
difficult.
are Disney songs, so I don't know why they couldn't
I don't know.
do the
I don't know.
others.
I would love that. Let's manifest it. But yeah, core Dalmatian related memory for me. But I did watch the 101 Dalmatians. I don't know if I was watching it 2 or 3 times a year like you were, but probably once a year for
It
me.
might have been one. I think my grandmother really liked the live action. So like I remember watching the live action at her house, and maybe that was one that animation wise she
I
reached for
know I
too.
had all three on VHS, all three being the two live actions, 101 and 102 Dalmatians, as well as the animated.
So prior to today's episode, this is the first time for me reading the book, but this is your second.
Yes, I was able to read it. I guess I will tip my hand as well for a resource. I was invited to read it with Jeff DePaoli on Disney Coast to Coast in 2021 ahead of the release of the Cruella film. So when I remember he invited me to be on that, I was like, all right, I'm going to buy this book because I'm going to need it when we get to episode 101. I feel like we were maybe at episode 60 something around then. I was like, just so you know, I will be talking about this book again on my show with Emily. So hope that's okay. Which it was because there was a bit of a different focus solely on Cruella for his. But this was my first nope, not first. This was my chance to revisit it.
So what were your overall reviews of the book, and if that changed between your first time reading and second time reading?
I think I liked it even better this time around because I had forgotten stuff. I liked it both times. Guess we found a British literature that I like, and it's children's literature. I had forgotten some things, some of the key differences, but they did come back to me quickly. But I find it a very charming book. Like I had a smile on my face as I read it. It was a delight to revisit, and I feel like I liked it more this time around. But that's not to say I did not like it the first time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, you had different focuses that you
Yeah,
were looking for.
right. So I was more focused on Cruella, and this was more of like a holistic view. I think I was doing like a lot more homework for that because I had to watch, well, I of course had to watch two of the films for this as well, but also the Emma Stone Cruella for that. So it was like three movies, the book. What do I want to say about her and her character? So I was able to kind of look at it from further out on this one. What about you?
For me, I liked it. It was good. I really like the dog perspective, which we'll compare with the film. There were some parts that were a little long for me, but once learning that this was serialized, it made a lot more sense to
Right.
me, where some of these things just seem to kind of drag. But if you were only getting 2 chapters at a time,
Installments.
yeah, those installments, it made a lot more sense to me then where some of these things dragged on. We can talk about some of that in the plot, like parts where like the Dalmatians being rescued and being brought back like across the fields. We had like the little boy's house, then the barn, then the field. Like there was like adventure after adventure after adventure of,
Right.
and I
They
get like
streamlined that in the film for sure.
walking to Suffolk to London is not close, but I felt like we just kind of got the same tropes over again. Whereas like in the film, they sped up that process. We only had to go through one field and a barn,
Yeah.
and then the soot at the end versus like so there's like 3 adventures of getting back versus like 7 adventures to get back
Yeah.
to London.
Did you read it all in like one go? How many days did it take you?
I think I read it over 3 days. I read it when I was at the gym mostly.
Yeah.
So when I would do like my 30 minutes on the treadmill or bike, I pulled up the book and I would crush like 35 pages at a time.
I was gonna say mine was like 184 pages, and so I was probably doing 50 at a time here and there.
My PDF that I got through Libby was the ebook I had was like 140
Okay.
with like acknowledgments, so like
So
135.
probably similar if you were doing 30 something. I was doing 50 pages. I was just gonna say I felt like maybe because I was kind of reading it in installments like that. It's definitely one like if I had left this to the end, like I could have sat down on Sunday night and just read it all in one go.
Yeah.
But I liked the approach that I had to reading it, which was just probably like 3 to 4 chapters at a time.
But what's different is it's not kind of like I mentioned Pale Travers before, but it's not quite like Mary Poppins where
Oh, that was vignettes for sure.
yeah, where each adventure or chapter can be read singularly. It was chronological. You did need to know what happened before
Yeah.
things to carry over. But I did think that there were some places that were cumbersome, like a couple too many characters. Like we'll talk about in the film how they combined some characters. For me, I think Disney made some good moves there to tighten up the story and to make things a little less confusing. Like that's a lot of Dalmatians to remember.
Name wise, yeah,
Yes.
we reduced those for sure. Did you have a favorite part of the book specifically?
I think my favorite is also close to my favorite also in the film. I like the role in the soot and deceive the Cruella and the Baddens with pretending to be Labradors. I did really enjoy the overall dog chain of you got to meet like we do in the film, meeting all the dogs across the country, which was fun and cute. And I liked how Lucky was it Lucky who got to be a sergeant,
Yes,
sergeant
he
major
kept
by the time
getting
he was promoted constantly
promoted
for his
by the
leadership.
sheepdog. Yes.
Yeah, by the colonel. So like that section I really enjoyed. But I think that if I had to pick like one scene, I think the rolling around the soot and trying to, we're clever, we're gonna outsmart Cruella, was still one of my favorite scenes. What about you?
I have a more abstract favorite element, but I do have a favorite
Okay.
scene as well. But I wanted to go into the element. It is used in the film at the very beginning where Pongo refers to Roger as his pet rather than owner, but that is fully developed in the book and like how the dogs refer to what we would call their owners as their pets and just the human to dog relationship. And I just felt there was a lot of funny little asides in the dogs communicating because Dodie's essentially translating for us. And then just her witty way of explaining how Roger doesn't well, it's not Roger in the book, sorry, it's the Dearlys. Mr. Dearly doesn't understand him, but like the comedy would be like they're trying to tell them, you know, like bark bark bark, like that the puppies have been stolen and they're in Suffolk, and Mr. Dearly joking, it was like, oh, are you trying to tell us the puppies are in Suffolk? And then she has a witty aside that's like, that was exactly what they were trying to tell them. Of course, they didn't understand. I don't think she overused that. It was a nice little comedic turn. But in terms of favorite scene, mine was actually one that was not in the movie, and that's the little terrier and his pet or owner is named Sir Charles, and he's an elderly man.
Oh,
And
that was such a sweet
yeah, just a
scene.
really sweet. The dog explains that in dog years he's like 105. And his owner I think is about 90, and just he comes from a long line of dogs for this owner, but just takes good care of him. The dog hoards his breakfast for Pongo and Mrs. That is Pongo's wife. We will get into that. That was just really sweet. And then the the owner, who's an old man, we kind of get that he's like at the very end of his life, does see Pongo and Mrs. and like thinks that they're his dogs from his youth. And I just thought that was a really touching scene. And it concludes with the terrier saying, "Oh, you've made my pet so happy. Like I could never repay you for that. Like thank you for the joy you've brought into our life." And I just felt that that was such a sweet scene embodying like the relationship between pets and owners and humans and dogs, and the strong relationship and bond that people can have.
Yeah, similar to like how on the other end we have the little boy, not the one who's mean and throws rocks at them, but the one who lends them their wagon. And he can
Yes,
almost understand the dogs. Like there's that like child innocence that they're closer and understanding to each other
I got the
of what's
sense he was
happening.
probably under like 2 years old, and
Hmm.
so like he's still in that like goo goo gaga baby phase, and as you get
Maybe
older,
barking and babbling are very
maybe.
similar. But I thought it was so cute when they were like, if you don't mind, we want to parade past his window so he can see the puppies before you all leave. Like, we're going to take this specific route out of the barn so that my pet can see the puppies because he'll love that. And they were like, oh, absolutely.
The relationship between the dogs and the humans was developed more in the book because you had more of those
Yeah.
scenes, and it was just a really sweet element that made me smile a lot as I read it.
A brief overview of the adaptation. How do you think Disney's animated adaptation compared to the original source material?
I think you had the right word in terms of, you said it streamlined it. I was pleased to hear in your recap of the history of the book that the author was pleased, because we know that that wasn't the case with Mary Poppins. Sometimes you have to make these changes for a different medium, and it sounds like she understood why those changes were made. I feel they complement each other really well. Like if you're a fan of this film, you should absolutely read the book. You might appreciate some of the differences, find them curious. But in terms of doing what they could for the animation medium, it made sense to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm curious too if I couldn't find anything on this, but when Dodie wrote this, if she knew it was going to be a serialized, if that influenced her writing style of this, or
Right.
if she knew it was going to be a book off the bat, would that have changed? Because I could see how your contract for a magazine would look different of like, we need this many words, a page count, we need it to run for X amount of weeks, which is going to
Mhm.
influence your structure a lot versus a book format. I wonder if maybe she would have also tightened some things up versus drawn out some of the adventures or had so many numerous characters that Disney combined into one. I'm curious about that. Uh, but yeah, I would agree overall. I think Disney was very true to the book. Like the intent of the focus is on the dogs. This is something that we can talk about with the live action, is how we kind of see a shift in focus of who's driving plot. Um, it's very dog focused. We've Pongo is the main protagonist. We get their voice. We have all the adventures. I think Disney definitely amped up Cruella, which we can talk about. She was important in the book, but I don't think we spent very much time with her.
No, I think that's why as I was reflecting on reading before, because my focus was to hone in on Cruella, I was like, oh, like, okay, I'm reading this other stuff, but where did Cruella go? And this time around, I just got to focus on the plot as a whole. I'm curious, is your favorite part of the book with the soot also your favorite part of the movie?
So yes, but I also really enjoyed, I opened with Canine Crunchies. I really enjoy
I like
that
that part
scene of
too.
all of them watching TV together. I think that one might beat and be like my favorite scene, even though it doesn't have much to do with plot. It's just kind of a chance to see them as a family. But I love the Canine Crunchies commercial, which I think they use in the sing along, right? Isn't Don't they
Probably.
call
I
the
did
treats
not
Canine Crunchies?
rewatch the whole
Um,
thing.
but I really enjoy getting to see the personalities of all the puppies, like Patches and Rolly and Lucky. Um, and Freckles. So I really enjoy that scene, but I do also still enjoy the Soot when they're like, "You want us to get dirty?" And they get so excited about like you kind of miss that as a kid. Like I say this every year when I go to the beach that I miss when I didn't care about sand so much. There's a time where I did not care that I had sand in my shorts or I just like flat out sat in the sand and now I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, where's my blanket and where's my towel and my chair?" And I love that innocence and that childhood personification through the animals in that scene a lot.
Yeah, I
What
like the
about you?
television element as well. As I noted, it's the first contemporary Disney film, meaning like it was set in the time that it released. And this is right as, television is really like coming into its peak just off of the 1950s. It's 1961. Television sets are more common. So I feel like that would have been really fun for its audience. I did like in the book the littlest dog is named Cadpig, and she loves the TV. Now, in the book, the only place they get exposure to the TV is at the Baddens, Cruella's henchman's
What's my
house. What's
crime?
my crime? They have a
They kept
which,
that the same.
yeah,
I
that
thought that was
was
great.
in the book in the movie as well. But I liked her as a character. She was just so into the TV. Like they're trying to get out. I think now in the film, that's more Lucky's role.
Mhm.
They kind of combined those characters. But she was just so precious. And I agree, just in this, they do watch TV at home. That was not the case in the book, but they are convinced to have a television for the dogs by the end of the book. But yeah, the just what went into making that, I can tell the animators had fun, like coming up with like the commercial. Thunderbolt is not a part of the book. The only program I believe we hear about is What's My Crime. So that was actually my favorite part of the
And
movie too.
Thunderbolt also has nothing to do with Bolt, which comes from
Correct.
Disney in the 2000s. Uh, but it also is reflected, they mentioned this in Disorder, that the 1960s, like Westerns was the genre. And Disney has Zorro and Disney has television shows. And so it emulates a lot of what is also happening in the company at the same time and what types of programming were popular in the 60s.
There's definitely a through line there to Toy Story, but more specifically Toy Story 2 when we learn about Woody's Roundup and the show. I feel
Yes.
like when Jesse and Prospector Pete play the clip for him in like Al's office, that just felt very similar. So we were not alive to watch the television of that era, but I would say, if Woody's Roundup came on after Thunderbolt in this universe, I would not be surprised if that was the afternoon television lineup.
So let's get into comparing the original source material to the animated film. Any big plot things that stood out to you?
I mean, the bones, no pun intended, of the plot are all there. Mrs. or Perdita in the movie has several puppies, quite a bit.
Mhm.
Cruella comes and steals them. Then Pongo and Mrs. or Pongo and Perdita go off to rescue them. We get a lot of the same hijinks, but the differences, as you said, would be where we cut some of those pieces of the journey, both to the puppies and returning from rescuing the puppies.
Yeah, I think there's more differences in the characters themselves than the plot. The one big thing I did notice was in the film, we kind of get a conclusion of what happens to Cruella, sort of. I have a lot of issues on both of how the ending with Cruella, like we don't really know what happens to her too much when, the puppies leave. We kind of like lose her. And then at the end of the film, they have this big car crash. So like, oh, she lost the puppies, she'll never get them. But then it's not until like the 1996 film, they're like, well, she was actually arrested for,
Right.
theft,
I think it's
animal abuse.
implied in the book that she's going to be arrested. Or does she actually get arrested? Now I blank
I
it.
don't actually remember now, but I just remember the ending being like, there's not a lot of conclusion with Cruella, which I guess makes sense. You're seeing this all through the dog's perspective,
Yeah.
but they do get back. We do see again the ending in the book is closer actually to the ending in the live action where the Dearlys buy Hell Hall and turn
Yes.
it into the Dalmatian plantation. Whereas in the film, the animated film, we just end with them counting all the dogs and he sings the song Dalmatian Plantation. And you just know they agree to keep the puppies, but you just don't know what they do with them all. So there's a little bit more completion, more so in the live action of like wrapping up all the loose ends. But I felt like both the book and the animated, I think it was a little bit better of an ending of kind of wrapping things up. But we still get the like, it was her own comeuppance. The puppies did nothing wrong. The villains caused their own demise.
There is no way she would have survived that car crash, though, in the animated.
Neither of
she
them.
is yeeted out of her vehicle that like spirals in the air. And yes, the vehicle falls apart, but she is standing on the ground and yelling at Horace and Jasper. It's like, no, there is no way this woman would be a functioning, standing, alive person in this moment.
Oh, something that was different in the book. I guess we can start going into characters, but like with Cruella, she's married. We don't see the husband at all in
either Disney adaptation.
Well, I think in the live action, that's where Skinner comes in because she's married to a furrier, and then Skinner's a skin animal.
Yeah, but they don't.
But like they're not married.
Yeah.
But I think he kind of makes a comeback in the live action as like as part of like the gang of who's in on this. But yeah, she's married, and that's a thing in the book. Yeah. He's not a huge character, but
I was gonna say I feel like he's very emasculated in the book. Like it's very clear that she's just using him for the furs. I mean, DeVille is her maiden name, and she's like, I'm the last of the DeVilles, so he took my last name.
It kind of reminds me of Queen of Hearts and the King. Like he's the king, but he's the tiny one. He has very little say.
I was also thinking, I don't think they're married, but like I just pictured the redheaded guy in The Rescuers, like the guy with the glasses and the curly red hair. I was like, I don't know, just like
it's a marriage of convenience.
Henchman dude, definitely a marriage of convenience there.
We can talk more about her, but I do want to start with the Dearlys, the Radcliffes, Pongo, Perdita, Mrs. This is the biggest change between the book and the film. So like which one really was like jarring to you?
Definitely the Pongo, Perdita, and Mrs. So
three?
In three, there's three of them.
But it's not a love triangle.
No, I did have to qualify that when I was explaining to Doug. I was like, he has another wife, but it's not really his other wife because she's just taking care of the puppies.
A surrogate?
That's the right word. So Pongo and Mrs. are what would be the equivalent of Pongo and Perdita in the film, the two married dogs, the parents of the puppies. And I just thought, oh, okay, her name was Mrs. in the book, and they just renamed her Perdita in the movie. No, there's a Perdita in the book as well. And so they have 15 puppies. It's a lot for Mrs. to take care of them, provide enough milk. And the vet says, well, maybe you can check like an animal shelter, find a dog who's recently given birth. And what would be the equivalent of Anita, Mrs. Dearly, is driving along the road and finds a discarded Dalmatian. And oh, how convenient. She has recently given birth, but her puppies have been sold. Put a pin on that because that's relevant to later. So they bring her home and she takes care of, I think, 8 of the 15 puppies, washes, cleans them. We do get a little like Mrs. is kind of jealous, but knows that she shouldn't be. She wonders if her husband has a straying eye. I was like, that's a lot to unpack in a children's book. But it makes sense that Disney would combine them because Perdita does not join Pongo and Mrs. on their journey in the book. She stays home with the Dearlys and comforts them. So I get that they probably liked the names Pongo and Perdita better for the two dogs in the Disney film. And they're like, well, they're both kind of moms. We'll just combine them. Though I do think it is very sweet in the book, of course. Probably should have put a spoiler alert, but it's been like 50 years, 60 years. It's fine. Their puppies, when I said put a pin in Perdita's puppies having been sold, of the dogs that are at Hell Hall, in addition to our original Dalmatians, her puppies are there. So she's also reunited with her puppies. It turns out that all of the puppies at Hell Hall, all 97 of them, which I want to come back to that math because that's important, they were all bought except for the 15 that were stolen from the Dearlys. So that's why people weren't out looking for those puppies. So her puppies have been sold, but she's reunited with them. And
her husband.
it's sweet. Yes. So that's where I
Prince.
said I wanted to come to the math. We find out she had a husband because, of course, those puppies had to come from somewhere. But he was owned by someone else. They were separated. Very sad. But I remember as I was reading in the film, it's 99 puppies. So then Pongo and Perdita make 101. And in the book, it's 97 puppies. And I'm like, okay, well, there's 3 at home. That's 100. The math ain't mathin'. I'm thinking this the whole way through reading it. And then shout out to Dodie Smith, who literally has a paragraph towards the end. And it was like, oh, I bet you're wondering, this doesn't add up to 101. And this is called the 101. And I was like, yes, girl, where's your math? And she's like, we'll get to it. And it turns out that after they have their little Dalmatian plantation, Prince's owner finds out about it, and they bring him so that Perdita is reunited with her husband along with her puppies. So that was a very cute, happy ending. But I really was concerned about the math through about 40% of that book. I was like, that doesn't add to 101. What is happening? So it makes sense that they upped the number of puppies in the movie to be like, yeah, the puppies plus the parents is 101.
This is where I think Disney did a good job with the adaptation. Like, I want to say this is where I think maybe with the serialization and maybe also in kind of an educational term, like that's probably something that does happen when you have a large litter of puppies that, physically speaking, the mother can't, like Mrs. can't take care of 15. She doesn't produce enough milk for 15. She would be exhausted trying to groom 15.
Yeah.
So that's probably something that legitimately happens where you kind of foster another mother who can help. Kind of like how people would have like a wet nurse back in, medieval times and whatnot, or even through, I don't know, Regency, world history, not
Maybe
my thing.
people still do. I don't know.
Yeah.
More power to you.
So, there's more than one way to have a family.
Yeah.
So maybe that was meant as like an educational thing. Like this is something that would legitimately happen. And it gives us another dog. But I do like that Disney combined it. I do think that streamlines that so much better. I think that would get way too confusing with having 3, 4 adult males or males, 3 or 4 adult Dalmatians. So that I think was a good move. I also wonder if they changed the Dearlys to the Radcliffes because Cruella says Anita Darling so many times that Darling and Dearly sound maybe too similar. So Roger Radcliffe, Anita Radcliffe
and I
is
feel
their
like
back name.
The mom character in Lady and the Tramp is she named? Aren't they like Jim Dear?
Yeah, they're Dear.
So they're like, we already had a dog movie where the parents were named Dear. Like, we're gonna give them more personality here.
Although if you watch the live action, you never really hear his last name, but in the newspaper announcement, it does say Roger Dearly married to Anita.
Oh,
so they do make his last name back to Dearly in the live action. I caught that on the newspaper headline.
Yeah.
So those were some of the big ones. The Baddens they're not named Jasper and Horace.
It's Jasper and Saul.
Yeah, so I like Horace.
I think it's just what we're used to.
I think it rolls better. Jasper and Horace. Jasper
grew up to. Look, Horace is horrible.
But they're still the Baddens. Their last name tells you right away they're bad.
They're bad. And that stays the same throughout.
They're pretty consistent. They like TV. They're not the most efficient at their job. Yeah, like they're loyal to Cruella, but only because she's providing room and board, not because they actually like her.
Care about her, yeah.
So those were the big differences for me. I'd say overall, though, like we said, that the adaptation was pretty spot on, if you will. Multiple spots on. But what about the 1996?
Yeah, I like this version. It's just a lot of fun. I do have some criticisms. Mainly, I absolutely loved it as a kid. But in adulthood, I realized this was written by John Hughes. And then, like, the last half of the film is just Home Alone, but with animals. And I was like, all right, the man had his shtick, and he was ready to get that check and write it off there. So I don't know if I needed all of those hijinks. That definitely strays from the story, though it is something fun on film. I think the absolute high point of that film is Glenn Close's portrayal of Cruella de Vil. She makes that film. It would not be as highly regarded for me if she was not in that role.
Absolutely. I would agree. I have a lot of nostalgia watching this film, so I enjoy it. I haven't revisited it since I want to say childhood, probably elementary school-ish. So it's been a while. But it was one that, like I said, through my early childhood, like it got thrown on probably 2 to 3 times a year. And I would say it was one that probably got put on television at some point, like the
Disney
ABC
Channel.
Family,
Yeah.
Disney Channel. Um, because I do remember watching it like in my living room with my family. So I do remember enjoying it a lot. I enjoyed rewatching it. But then I listened to the Disorder episode after, and they had a lot of the same criticisms you did. And they made some interesting points thinking about this is like the earliest Disney live action remake that I can at least recall. Like it is
Yeah,
the
I think you're
first.
right.
And maybe now we also see this more critically than we did before. And I'm borrowing this talking point from Disorder. I will give them the credit. That now that we're in this age of all these remakes, we might have loved it back then because it was also contemporary. They made it contemporary to the 90s.
Yeah.
So they kept it within the time period of when it's released, which is
He's not a
cool.
songwriter. Jeff Daniels is a computer software,
Yes.
computer game programmer.
Computer
Why
game
was that
guy.
not the computer game though?
Yeah. Difference. Um, so like we might be more critical now of it as a live action, whereas before that was like a totally novel thing of like, oh, let's turn an animated into a
And
live
Glenn Close
action.
is a big name. Now, she
Yeah.
deserves her Oscar that she has yet to get. I don't know if I'm saying she should have gotten it for this, but like that was a big get. That was,
Mhm.
I'd say, on par with I'd say the next big live action was the Maleficent 2014 ushers us into our current live action thing, and Angelina Jolie, like, oh wow, big name
And I
for
would say
Disney.
that so some critiques that they had were also like using the animals kind of similar, not similarly to Lion King, but some of the similar issues is
The
with
CGI.
animals, yeah, they didn't use a ton of CGI in 101 Dalmatians live action. There are moments and you can tell when those moments happen, but you are mostly working with live animals, so you miss like with the Twilight Bark. This is something that Andy brought up that if you didn't know the original, like, do you understand that they're all communicating to each other like across the country? Or are you automatically bringing that in and filling in those plot holes because you know the original? And I hadn't thought about that before.
The dogs don't talk. Like it's not like, oh, we gave them, because in the Lion King live action, like
They talk.
those animals talk, but this was like they are real animals. I think that's why they probably had to lean into those hijinks. Like, well, you got to give the animals something
Yeah.
fun to do.
But I thought that was so cool of how they use so many animals and the dogs. And I do think it's a lot of fun. But that was a point that they had made in their podcast that I wanted to bring in that I hadn't really thought of before because I was coming in like, I was like shocked to listen to it. I was like, how do you not love this film? I thought it was fantastic. And then the more they kept talking, I was like, oh, maybe I
This
am
is the
looking at this.
apex of my childhood in the
Maybe
90s.
not the apex, but
No.
I remember having very like being very like, yeah, this is a good one. And when we started bringing back live actions, being like, oh yeah, didn't they do this before? But they made some really good points about some of the issues we're having now with live action remakes are present in this one, but
Okay. That's
maybe we
interesting.
just weren't thinking about it at the time. But Glenn Close, I do think it's one of the better Disney live action remakes. Like if we were to put it up against some of the newer ones, I think it's new enough. It's different enough from the animated film, for me
Yeah.
anyway, that you get the points that you want, you get the greatest hits, but it is different enough. Again, because of like Cruella, which let's talk about her, how she's different in the live
She
action versus the film and the animated film and the book.
She's one of my favorite villains. Cruella and Ursula are like my top two, and Cruella is just pure evil in every instance of
Yeah.
101. I mean, like she wants to murder puppies. We're just that's pretty bad to the point. I forget which animator was making like, she didn't have magical powers. She's just straight up a bad person, and I feel Glenn Close brings so much to this role. Glenn Close famously plays Norma Desmond in the Broadway adaptation of Sunset Boulevard, and I can see the through line from the Norma Desmond character to Cruella. They are both very over the top. I did not get to see her in Sunset Boulevard, but I can just picture it having seen her play Cruella. I do like what they did for her relationship with Anita, because in the book and in the animated film, Cruella is just supposed to be an old schoolmate of Anita's. And I don't know, I feel like obscurely or maybe abstractly the animated movie is an anti-smoking PSA, because if they're schoolmates, like, look what that's done to Cruella's face, because she does not look the same age as Anita in the animated film. But here, having Anita be a fashion designer at Cruella's, house of design gives you more of like that power dynamic relationship. Like, okay, Cruella's her boss, and now her boss wants her puppies. Like, excuse me, no, versus just her like random schoolmate. I do feel like that was an improvement.
Yeah, I feel like it fills some plot holes of not only their relationship, but like we see with like the tiger being stolen, like fur is definitely her thing. And we see where does she just suddenly decide she wants Dalmatian puppies? Whereas in the animated film and even in the book, she just comes in, she goes, "Oh, fur, puppies, I want it." And you're just like, where did that come from? Whereas with the drawing and seeing Anita's design, she has it both in stripes and in spots. And she's like, "Oh, I like the spots better." Sees the dog and goes, "Oh, inspired by your dog." And then she starts the wheels turning, like, coarse hair or fine hair. And then so like you see that I'm more motivated. She has a lot more motivation for being as evil as she is. It doesn't seem so random. And I think she definitely has, we get the laugh. She says, "It's like I'm wearing your dog." Like she has a lot more antagonizing.
Her laugh is so good.
So good.
In this.
Woof, woof, oh.
Do you feel like the live action picked up on some parts of the book that the animated may have missed?
So this was a critique that they had also in Disorder. Like we miss, like you said, that turnaround of Pongo being our narrator and seeing everything through the eyes of the dog. We see everything through the eyes of the humans, or as humans observing animals. So we kind of lose to borrow a Disney phrase, shrinking down to the size of, or become a dog.
Yeah.
So we kind of lose that perspective.
The element of that world.
Yeah. So we do lose that. We did lose some of my favorite scenes. Like we don't have the rolling around in the soot.
You would not be able to do that with real dogs.
That's true. Like it was just not going to work. And also you wouldn't cover an entire Dalmatian. My sister has a dog. Yeah, he gets dirty, but you can still tell what kind of dog he is. But like, so you lose some of those little elements that were really fun gags, but they found ways. The raccoons are great. The skunk that climbs in. I do like that in this we get more animals, not just dogs. But I think that key part of the book is something that's missing in the live action, even though I think they made Cruella a much better villain in the live action. So which one are you going to reach for? You have to watch 101 Dalmatians, but you got to pick one.
I mean, having just finished the book, I would say reach for the animated because that is the adaptation to me, but the live action is so fun. So it's just going to depend on my mood. I know that that's a cop-out.
I think if we go with which one's closest to the adaptation of the book, I am going to go animated is way closer.
Yeah.
But I agree, like I enjoy both of them, but I think I am going to go animated also because we get the songs.
Yes.
I mean, it's one song, but we get Cruella de Vil,
you get the Canine Crunchies and you get Dalmatian Plantation.
Okay, 3 songs.
2 songs.
So I think because of that, I would reach for the live action because I do really like the Cruella de Vil song. It's very well done.
Yeah.
And I kind of miss that in the live action.
That's fair. I think I just like watching Glenn Close. So I'm just happy to see her in that. Here's a fun question though. In both films, we see different characters with their dogs who look just like them. What breed would be your doggy doppelganger?
So I've actually posed this question to my family before.
Really?
Like other times that we watch this, or because we say this to my sister a lot. So my sister has a miniature poodle. So watching this, I imagined my sister with the poodle and like the fancy coat.
Can we give each other what dog we think the other person would be? But then you get to share which one you are. You are giving me strong corgi energy.
Yes. Okay. So I was going to say if I got to choose the dog I wanted to be, I want to be a corgi.
Yeah.
I freaking love corgis. They're so cute.
You have like your little, they're little. I know you like British things. They're British. I'm getting corgi energy from you. But what was your other one that you were thinking of if you didn't get to choose like looked more like you?
So I asked my sister because we've done this where like people will say, or my sister says all the time about her dog line, and she's like, yeah, he's definitely my dog. And there's isms about them that mesh. And that always kind of remind me of Dalmatians, where they personify the dogs and their owners together, the
Yeah.
pets and the pets.
Mhm.
So I had asked her before, what do you think? What is my like dog doppelganger? And she had said that I'm an Irish setter, maybe
Okay.
based on looks. So looking this
Google.
up, she said I'm an Irish setter to her. I think the coat, the color is similar. It almost looks like a lab or a golden retriever with that kind of face. It has a longer snout, longer
A little
ears,
bit
but
of
it's a
like
little
the Cocker
curlier.
Spaniel ears.
Yeah, and also like the curliness of the hair.
Okay. I
So
can
she
see that.
said she thinks I'm an Irish setter, maybe because I have the energy, the coloring.
My turn.
Definitely a dog who loves to curl up and like is a you're a cozy dog. So I'm trying to think what's the
Okay.
cozy, because like you like the movies and listening to like you would watch movies with your owner. You want to be in the room when they're
Yes.
reading books. So I feel like you're a cozy dog. Hey, maybe a lady. Is
Like a
she what
Cocker
is she?
Spaniel.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think kind of like lady.
Okay.
We're both mid-sized, like
Small
smaller,
dog.
not
Yeah.
small dogs, but like on the smaller side. But
I like that. Lady's a very nice dog.
she likes to be at her, like she enjoys her home. Not, I'm saying
Yes.
this really badly. I just see you as a cozy dog. Like you're gonna want to be there when your owner's like, oh, movie night. You're like, yes,
Yes.
we're
I'm
gonna sit.
here.
I want the popcorn. You're gonna have your bowl of treats. Watch the movie with your pet.
I had a mean Cocker Spaniel when I was little, and she went to the puppy farm.
Oh no.
I know. I was like 4. I don't think of Cocker Spaniel, but
Maybe a Westie?
let me
A
look up a
Westie?
Westie.
West
I know
Highland
which one. I
Terrier?
have one in my brain, but I'll look up Westie.
My friends had West Highland Terriers, and I thought they were
Oh,
so
they're
cute.
cute. Okay, I'll take that. That actually the Westie is similar to the dog that I thought, and mine is a Yorkie.
Okay,
Like,
friends of mine had Yorkies.
I think that's also because my mom replaced me with a Yorkie when I went to college because I'm an only child and she needed something. And I feel like the Yorkie that she replaced me with, God bless her, is 14 years old now. She's doing great. Just saw her this weekend. Her name is Trixie. I feel like Trixie is me in dog form. She is a very anxious dog, and I was like,
Oh,
look at this little anxious doggy. She's very sweet though. She's like, she takes a moment to warm up to people, but then she's like, you can rub my belly, it's fine. Um, and she's cute. So I don't know. My brain went to Yorkie.
friends of mine that have Yorkies, the reason I didn't think Yorkies because their Yorkies are like super hyperactive
Yeah, they can
and
be,
they
but
are,
Trixie's mellow.
yeah. And I was like, that the energy to me to the 2 Yorkies in my life that I know did
Yeah.
not quite match.
Well, no,
But
it's kind of like I had a hyperactive Cocker Spaniel as a child who was mean and bit people. So I was like, I don't know if I'm lady, but I will take it. This is a fun psychological exercise. Thank you.
I feel like I need to learn more dog breeds. I'm not very good
Yeah.
at knowing. Um, but yeah, I always enjoyed that though, where they, and that's something the animation as well, although they do it in the live action with the bulldog and
Oh yeah.
the beefeater,
Portly. Yeah.
the British Guard, and like an English bulldog is very English, and they both have that
Mhm.
like kind of
The
face
face.
with like the downward frown. So they brought that into both iterations where the owners and the dogs are very much the same, but they do it so well in the animated film that I always liked that opening and like seeing the owners with their dogs.
Yes,
I always
it's
thought that
very
was so
cute.
cute.
Well, we do have an opportunity here that we don't always do on the podcast to kind of dig in a bit into representation in the parks. The biggest, I would say, is the All Star Movies Resort. That is what I have used to promote the episode on our Instagram. All Star Movies has themed sections, including Toy Story, The Mighty Ducks, which feels like the most Michael Eisner decision ever, Herbie the Love Bug, Fantasia, and 101 Dalmatians. You have an oversized Pongo and Perdita, a cute photo op with Lucky looking at the TV, but you can put yourself in the TV for the photo. Have you been able to see this? I can't remember if you've stayed over at the
A
All
long
Stars.
time ago, yes. I think that's one of the first resorts we ever stayed at was All-Star Movies. I don't remember what section we were in though. We might have been in the Mighty Ducks section.
Nice.
But I do remember the giant Pongo.
Yeah. It's right by the food court. It's like one of the closer sections. So if you were in Mighty Ducks, you definitely would have had to walk through 101 Dalmatians to get to the bus and the main amenities.
Character-wise, you do get to meet Cruella occasionally. She tends to show up during Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. She's also in the parade, boo to you. So you'll see her, and sometimes she does pop up randomly, but mostly Halloween is when you're going to find her.
I've run into her at Disneyland in the not Halloween season before. I just on Main Street, of all places, but have a fabulous memory of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party 2015 when I dressed as Cruella, and Cruella was loving it. We had a full-on photo shoot. We were like working the fur coat, the inside satin lining. Mine was not real fur. I do need to put that disclaimer, but like I was there for it. She was there for it. Just one of those great like character interaction memories for me. So she is a fun one to meet because villains can be mean to you, and that's always fun. It's like if you go to Dick's Last Resort and they just roast you, like I don't know, I'm a glutton for that.
They do such a good job in the parks of how villains interact with guests. Like I've also seen like Evil Queen when she interacts with guests, like it's actually more humorous of how they're like, no, don't stand there, stand here. Like they're not mean to you, but they do take that they are above you.
Sometimes they're mean to you. Sometimes they
But I think they know how to read it.
Nice way. Yes, like
they know how to read the audience. But they're really fun to meet if you haven't had characters, obviously with kids, as someone who's been in entertainment. That is something, be prepared for if they've never met a villain before. That could be both exciting and or scary. More scary because maybe they're not used to talking characters or having interactions, not just like, oh, I love your dress, give me a hug. But they can be really fun, especially if you go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. Like, make it a point to go see one villain. Very cool. But something I thought that was interesting, and I haven't seen this. You go to the parks more regularly than I do, but there is a permanent representation now on Main Street in Magic Kingdom. In 2022, they added 2 Dalmatian puppies to the firehouse.
Like
little statues.
Puppy? Okay,
like they're just like in the
Are there
firehouse.
puppies there? See, I have not.
There's 2
seen
puppies.
That.
One is sleeping, I think, curled up in like a fire hose, and there's another one like trying to get into a bucket, like there's treats or something. And I saw pictures from bloggers. I was like, I have not seen that. I can't remember the last time I actually like went into the firehouse.
Well, I feel like if you ever played Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, it was to go in there to start the game. So this definitely came to fruition after the Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom game ended. No, I have not. I don't know. I just don't go in there. I will make a point though next time I'm at Magic Kingdom, and I'll be like, those are the puppies that
I was surprised. Yeah, I did like a Google search because I was struggling to think of other places other than All-Star Movies and Cruella of like where can you find Dalmatian representation, and that one popped up and apparently is very recently new.
And you found another subtle one as well, maybe not so subtle.
Yeah, so I remember this, maybe it was during my program because you drive around property so much, like going to work, and being a global cast member, I went to every park and every resort. So I drove all over the place, and there is an actual fire station, not the Main Street fire station, but the Reedy Creek Fire Department that services Walt Disney property. And it's Dalmatian themed, like the house is painted, the firehouse is painted.
There's 3 fire stations on property, but the one on Buena Vista Drive over by like the Riviera Resort, making your way towards Coronado Springs before you hit the boardwalk though, is the Dalmatian one with the spots and everything. And I had a not parks, but parks adjacent one to add, which is the Midship Detective Agency. I mentioned the Sorcerer of the Magic Kingdom game. This was very similar, but on the cruise line where you have a card and the screen reads it and spits out random things to play. That's available on 2 of the Disney Cruise Line ships, the Disney Dream and I believe the Disney Fantasy, for sure the Disney Dream. The Midship Detective Agency actually has 3 games. There's a paintings one where paintings are stolen and you're helping Mickey and Goofy find them and figure out which villain did it. There's a Muppet one, which of course I played, which is you have to find out like who stole something from Miss Piggy's dressing room and like which of the Muppets did it, which is kind of fun.
It wasn't the diamond.
No, no. I don't think they have rights to Great Muppet Caper. Maybe. No, actually that one is on Disney Plus. Yeah, missed opportunity there. That one's fun because I feel like the Muppets aren't really villainous, but it's just all the regular Muppets like could be suspects. And then of course the one that I haven't played is the Case of the Missing Puppies, where you are trying to round up all 99 puppies. It's really fun. There's paintings on the ship that just would look like normal paintings if you pass them. But when you activate the game, they play to life, they come to life, and allow you to have the interface, and it sends you to various decks and locations on the ship. So I will be sailing on the Disney Dream later this year. I think I will make a point to play the Case of the Missing Puppies this time around.
Very cool. And then shout out again to Disorder. They mentioned, and this is memories that they would probably that hosts Mike and Andy would probably have because they were older. In 1996, we were 4. I don't know if you remember this. I definitely do not remember this in what was MGM Studios at the time. That Mickey Ave in MGM Studios for the promotion of the 96 live action was Dalmatian Ave. And in the studios, they had like green screen effects where you were at it. So Michael Lyons talked about this. He was on the bike and was inserted into the chase scene in the beginning when the runaway Pongo bike scene as Roger. So they had promotional stuff happening in MGM Studios, but I definitely do not remember that at 4 years old.
I don't remember it being renamed Dalmatian Avenue, but I can tell you that a lot of the props and stuff for the movie and the walkthrough likely stuck around for a few years, because I do have a vague recollection of walking through the soundstage and seeing Cruella's car from filming, some set pieces. Like I can picture being more up on not necessarily a catwalk, but like elevated looking down into the set. Like you weren't going to be able to go play in the set pieces, but maybe like the gate to Hell Hall, definitely Glenn Close's costume. So the Dalmatian Avenue rename might have been brief, but I feel like the soundstage walkthrough stuck around for a while, because I don't think I'd remember it at 4, but I could see it maybe, lasting till 1998 or something. It was over where what is now the Toy Story Mania attraction, back when like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire play it. This would be before that, but that like old soundstage area before you got to the backlot tour. So vague recollection of that, but I can picture looking down into the set pieces.
And I wouldn't be surprised if there were some other props that were in the backlot tour. Like I remember that queue area was a big prop house, so like I wouldn't be surprised if there was something tucked in there, very Indiana Jones style in the crates.
No attraction or show, but some decent representation. So that was fun to recollect.
I can see why though it could be hard to make like an attraction, like trying to think of, some armchair Imagineering. How would I want to make this into representation? Like 100 puppies would be hard. Maybe with modern technology and like some of the screen stuff and trackless that we can do, but I can see why prior to maybe imagining something more modern, like in the parks when it was out when Walt Disney World opened. Like I can see why they didn't go 101 Dalmatians for an opening day attraction, because that would be incredibly difficult to manufacture 100 dogs.
Yeah.
To go into a dark ride or something. I think the resort is a great place for it.
Yeah, no, that was a good pick. So as we wrap up, we of course always like to leave additional resources, so they're likely going to come as no surprise throughout this episode. Mine was the episode on Disney Coast to Coast where I appeared as a special guest. That is episode 817, The Evolution of Cruella de Vil. You can find Disney Coast to Coast, that's Disney with a Z, wherever you listen to this podcast, as well as on YouTube and the Disney Coast to Coast website. That was a lot of fun. Very similar. I think it would pair well with this episode, but really dug deep into Cruella. I know that I came up with the 4 C's of Cruella, and I can't remember what those C's were. So you and I will both have to go back and listen and find out what they were. I could have listened before I came here, but why not leave you with a little tease to have an incentive to go into my in-depth character analysis. That was paired with the 2021 release of the Emma Stone film. And Emily, what's yours?
So I also have podcast episodes. So I do want to reference, as I have been throughout this podcast, Disorder. They're just such a great podcast. They do such a good deep dive into the animation history, as well as they also did an episode on the live action. So I listened to both of them. Yeah, two separate episodes. So I listened to them recently back to back coming into today's episode. So I watched the films and read the book first, then listened to their analysis, which is what made me get on some of this path of thinking, especially about the live action, about maybe how I view it. But they do such a good job, especially with the film history. They're really good with their research on that, whereas we try to temper a lot with the book as well. So if you want an even further deep dive into the animated film or the live action film, I encourage you to check out Disorder. And then obviously, if you enjoy Dodie Smith's 101 Dalmatians, remember there is a sequel, The Twilight Barking.
I will have to check that out. We also wanted to point listeners back to episode 60 of our show for Hello, Cruel Heart by Maureen Johnson. This was actually the official young adult novel tie-in to the 2021 film Cruella, again, starring Emma Stone, but it's a prequel to that character taking place before the events of the film. And I remember we enjoyed that. So if you also really like Cruella, fun to dig more into her character. And that can keep you company until our next episode, where we will have an author interview. We will be reading Disneyland on the Mountain, Walt the Environmentalist and the Ski Resort That Never Was. And we'll be joined by the authors Greg Glasgow and Catherine Mayfor in early May. So while this ski resort was never meant to be, it did bring a band of animatronic bears to the Magic Kingdom. So we look forward to this discussion and interview and hope you will read and listen along with us. The book is available from all major book retailers and is linked in the show notes. In the meantime, you can keep up with Book of the Mouse Club on Instagram at Book of the Mouse, or email us with comments or ideas to bookofthemouseclub@gmail.com. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen so others may find our podcast and read and listen along with us. You can keep up with me, Courtney, on Instagram at Great Gutsby.
And you can keep it up with me, Emily, at Emily_McD. And Courtney, I think it's your turn to give us a closing quote.
Yes, I have one from the book here by Dodie Smith. It's a little bit of a longer one, but bear with me. Quote, "Dogs can never speak the language of humans, and humans can never speak the language of dogs. But many dogs can understand almost every word humans say, while humans seldom learn to recognize more than half a dozen barks, if that. And barks are only a small part of the dog language. A wagging tail can mean so many things. Humans know that it means a dog is pleased, but not what a dog is saying about his pleasedness. Really, it is very clever of humans to understand a wagging tail at all, as they have no tails of their own. Then there are the snufflings and sniffings and the pricking of ears, all meaning different things, and many words are expressed by a dog's eyes." End quote.
Oh, I like that. I think that gets to the heart of how Dodie communicates with the dogs through the story, and that they're the main characters.
I'd agree. This was such a pleasure to revisit for me, a first time for you. So thank you, listeners, for joining this journey along with us, and we'll see you next month.
Canine crunchies can't be beat. They make each meal a special treat. Happy dogs are those who eat nutritious canine crunchies.
Book of the Mouse Club has no affiliation with the Walt Disney Company. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and participants are theirs and theirs alone. They do not represent the organizations or companies they happen to work for.